morning and welcome to Breakfast Central, your ultimate morning companion. Yes, we've got a packed show for you today, from the latest headlines to information and insightful discussions. Sit back, relax, grab your coffee and enjoy today's program. I am Benga Aboroa.
And I am Olive Emodi. Thanking you for joining us today on The Breakfast Show. Lots of conversations to be explored. It seems like there's a sense of normalcy that has returned to Osun State, but we'll be looking at the legal implications of what exactly has occurred, especially stemming back to the result of the 2022 elections conducted by the former governor of Osun State, Oyetola. We'll be looking at the details of this and what the next steps will be for Osun State. You're very welcome to the show.
Yes, a lot to unpack today, but let's start your day with our breakfast conversations. And I'll start with someone that is always in the news for, not so palatable news. And it goes by the name of Habib Okikiola, aka Portable Omolalomi. I do music for a living. That's how he introduces himself. The Osun State government and the Nigerian police force are looking for him. Yes, he's been declared wanted. So if there's a wanted poster out there for Portable. If you have any information on his whereabouts, please report. But in a twist of events, he has actually given up his whereabouts. We don't know if he's actually there or it's just one of his social media gimmicks. Portable released a series of videos yesterday saying, let's just take a listen and we'll come back to you.
I do music for a living. We're moving out. Nigeria. This now I need you people help. No place like home, but evil people full home. Why only me? Why only Nigeria? I have issue in Nigeria. I do music for a living. I'm not a thief. I don't people. I don't rape people. I wait for my own blessing. I bless people. Inside my own blessing, I bless people. I don't make trouble. People look for my wahala. I'm a superstar. God, forgive me. If I do you bad, I'm sorry. Oh Lord.
We heard it from the young man himself, Okikiola Habib. Portable, I do music for a living. I mean, this is not a funny matter, because if you were one of those people that Portable and his thugs attacked, you won't find it funny. So let me give you a background to the story. The Osun State officials were carrying out their lawful duties in the series, and he assaulted them. The police are looking for him and a couple of his friends for assault. But in that video, there's more to the video. He said, I didn't kill anybody. If anything happens to me, there will be trouble. They should post the evidence of where I fought them at my bar. They are evil people and they're lying. Okay, if you think you're lying, go out
don't run away.
Exactly.
He who comes to equity must come with clean hands doesn't apply here. But if you have nothing to fear, why are you running? I think the problem in this case is because Portable has been known to be one that stirs trouble everywhere he goes. He's always in the news. He seems to have been able to find a way to whip up controversy in support of himself. So in situations like this, when you hear that Portable did something, people oftentimes would always think he did it first before they hear the other side. Because of the controversy, his personality is surrounded by controversy. So, I'm sure that there'll be more investigation.
He said, Olive, what do you make of this? Portable said he's in Aro Psychiatric Hospital, that he's a madman. He's receiving treatment and all
Who
that.
certified
Remember,
him
last year he said he was a baboon. So
he's a baboon living in the zoo. Who certified him a madman? Is how people just wake up. I don't know in the court of law that his testimony of being a mad person will stand as evidence in his favor.
If you're mad, you're not the one that would declare or certify yourself
mad. In fact, mad people think they are normal.
But these days it seems like, I don't know if it's a slang or if they really mean mad, because there was a superstar 2 days ago. He was saying, if we are mad, we are madder. What's the thing with madness?
No. In defense of that one, the mad they are talking about is not schizophrenia. It's mad, M-A-D, making a difference.
I see. Oh, Gen Z. Thank you for that.
No, but I think that, if he wants to use the defense of madness, it's what I don't know if there really is that sort of defense. It will be more of
but I'm sure,
health.
I mean, what he's doing is just...
He's trying to deviate. It is
he
a
needs to go and face...
that would check the state of his mental health and then submit the reports. But yes, I'm hoping
Please
that
come out of hiding. Possibly, if you're watching Breakfast Central,
come out of hiding. But I think that his team have a lot of work to do in terms of brushing him up and branding him so that he doesn't keep surrounding himself with all this controversy. Yes, it's helping him trend every other day, but the downside is that when there are issues like this, people would always tilt in favor of believing that he actually did it before getting to him.
I mean, and he should just pay a nice lawyer to defend him and also advise him. His collected royalties.
After he pays the lawyer, the next day.
His collected royalties from Tony Montana.
The problem is after paying the lawyer, the next day he will drag the lawyer. All right, let's move on to our next story. We had an interview on our Politics HQ, our 7 p.m. daily political show, the second best show on News Central after Breakfast Central.
Thank you.
Yes, very important I'll mention that. And we had a very interesting allegation that was being made, especially when the conversation was surrounding the drama that has befallen the House, the hallowed, or what was once referred to as the hallowed chambers, the Lagos State House of Assembly, and all the drama that has ensued in the past few days with regards to dethroning or ousting the former, ousting is not the right word, but allow me to use that loosely, the former Lagos State Speaker, the new Speaker Miranda, them throwing in a vote of confidence for her, she crying, being overwhelmed by all of that. There was an allegation that was made on our show on Politics HQ. We want you to take a listen.
The reason why they passed vote of confidence on Mojisola Miranda is because of their belly. It's their belly deciding their direction. Do you understand me? And it's good that issues like
so you are saying that this members of the House that passed a vote of confidence saying we believe in the leadership of Mojisola, Right Honorable Mojisola Miranda, you are saying that they are fighting more for their belly than
Mr. Dapo.
Believing in our leadership. Is that what you're saying?
I'm telling you this for free. And I don't mind if he wants to pay me, I'm going to collect it. Vote of confidence to those people, they don't really mean it. You understand? Anybody that based his or her relationship with whosoever on that seat, based on money, such person doesn't have integrity. None of them can come out and tell me that they didn't collect money. Each of them went home January 13 with 30 million naira each.
What? Members of the House?
Yes.
Lagos State House of Assembly, each of them, 30 million.
Let them come out and tell Lagosians that they didn't receive any kobo before they did what? They did on January 13th. Let us be honest to ourselves.
I think that we need a bit of clarity as to what exactly that 30 million was for. Is it 30 million their allowance for, maybe their assisting allowance accrued for the past month or whatever? Or is that 30 million solely because of the politics that has been going on in the House? And if it is the latter, he who alleges must prove.
Exactly. And I wonder why there wasn't any pushback for allegations, like where are you getting this from? And this is the first time we're hearing it anywhere on Politics HQ. But you have to look at the young man himself. Like Mr. Niniola says, is a special essay to the impeached speaker, the former Speaker Obasa. So you wonder what his motive is, if he just came to stir the honest nest. Yes, that's how they say it. It's quite a tongue twister, a honest nest. And to make trouble or just to show workings for his principal. That's the former Speaker Obasa. So these are wild allegations. And if you're going to make such allegations, you need to show evidence. I mean, 30 million is a lot of money.
We're not saying they collected or they did not collect. Exactly, but you just have to explain. I mean, the next few days will unravel exactly what will happen if Mojisola Miranda will survive the drama going on in the House, and we'll be bringing you updates as we receive them. But now let's begin by sharing with you our top stories for this morning on Breakfast Central.
This is Breakfast Headlines on Breakfast Central. I am Benga Aboroa. We begin in Nigeria, where the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has described the passing of elder statesman Ayo Adebanjo, co-founder of the Pan-Yoruba Socio-Cultural Organization Afenifere, as a great loss to the country and the Southwest. During a condolence visit to the late Adebanjo's home in Lagos, Governor Sanwo-Olu commended The Federal leader as a man who wasn't afraid to speak truth to power and one whose shoes would be difficult to fill. Pa Adebanjo died on February the 14th at his Lagos residence after a brief illness at the age of 96. The National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, has rejected the recent increase in ATM charges by the Central Bank of Nigeria. The association described the increments as an attack on the financial stability of Nigerian students and the larger populace. It noted that the increment places an unnecessary burden on students and citizens, especially in an already struggling economy. NANS threatened to shut down the Central Bank of Nigeria and CBN branches across the country and its headquarters. And a major step towards improving healthcare access, the United Nations Population Fund, UNFPA, in collaboration with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, has officially handed over family planning commodities to the Lagos State government. This move is aimed at bolstering maternal health services and ensuring that women and girls in Lagos have better access to family planning options. The handover ceremony held on Tuesday marks a significant milestone in the ongoing efforts to reduce maternal mortality and promote reproductive health across Nigeria.
We are so grateful because even last year we ran out of commodities, family planning commodities, and it's not something it's not where we want to be, where people are actually asking, they're actually coming to our primary healthcare settings and we're actually telling them that we've run out, and it will be used well. We're not charging any mother any money at all for this, and we have, like you stated, we have a variety of things. What is good for Mrs. or Miss A is not good for B. So it's nice when you have that variety as well. So it's not one cap fits also.
Following his redeployment by the Inspector General of Police as the new Commissioner of Lagos State, Commissioner of Police Moshood Jimoh has reiterated his commitment to doubling his efforts in working with the state government to reduce crime in the state. CP Moshood made this announcement at the media briefing at the Lagos State Police Command headquarters in Ikeja. Moshood further stated that the Lagos State Police Force under his watch will work with relevant stakeholders to ensure security and safety of the state. The new commissioner, who is the 41st Commissioner of Lagos State, applauds the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, for finding him worthy of this position as he prioritizes effective synergy between the police and other security agencies and the entire public. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. I'm Benga Bora. Breakfast Central continues shortly. Stay with us.
The leadership dispute in Osun State's local governments escalated into violence on Monday, resulting in multiple deaths and injuries. The crisis erupted when sacked All Progressives Congress APC local government chairmen attempted to resume duties at their respective secretariats, sparking bloody clashes with the People's Democratic Party (PDP) supporters. Among the casualties was Remi Abbas, the former chairman of Irewole local government area. And in response to the violence, Governor Ademola Adeleke has ordered the immediate closure of all local government secretariats to maintain law and order. Now, here's what you should know about this dispute.
Federal High Court nullified the October 2022 local government elections in Osun State, citing violations of the Constitution and breaches of the Electoral Act 2022. Governor Ademola Adeleke of the People's Democratic Party assumed office and upheld the court's nullification of the local government elections, leading to the removal of the previously elected All Progressive Congress officials. In February 2025, an appellate court issued a judgment that the APC interpreted as a mandate to reinstate their previously sacked local government chairmen and councillors. Acting on this interpretation, these officials attempted to resume duties on February the 17th, 2025, leading to violent clashes and multiple fatalities. Now, joining us this morning at Breakfast Central to make sense and to unravel this controversy in the ongoing leadership issues in Osun State is legal practitioner Festus Ogun. Thank you very much for joining us, Festus. Good morning to you.
Thank you for having me. Good morning to you.
Now, Festus, the Court of Appeal has given a judgment, and you have lawyers on both sides interpreting it the way they deemed fit. So what is the proper legal position on this, and why are APC and PDP interpreting this judgment differently?
It is a sad narrative that we are even having this conversation.
A very sad one, because lives have been lost.
It's sad that we're having this conversation because the position is very clear. How do I mean? Sometime in 2022, the Federal High Court, in a lawsuit filed by PDP against the Osun State Independent Electoral Commission, ruled that the proposed election should not be held because it was going to be held in violation of the Electoral Act. That judgment was appealed by the APC, who at that time was a party to the suit. Now, similarly, APP, another political party, filed another lawsuit about the time the election was to be conducted, challenging the conduct of the election essentially. That very judgment equally sacked all officials elected by the Osun State Independent Electoral Commission, same in 2022. Now, the APC challenged the PDP judgment. The APC equally challenged the APP judgment. But while sometime in February, early this month, the Court of Appeal sitting in Akure said that, look, the trial court, that's the Federal High Court, should not have assumed jurisdiction to entertain that case in the first place. So, that PDP case in the first place, because it was premature, it was speculative, there was no, the issue has not arisen when PDP went to court. On that basis,
they had not conducted the elections that time.
At that time, the election has not been conducted. On that basis, the court said, no, look, the court of law is a court of fact. You don't come here to speculate. So as at the time that matter was filed, the court should not have assumed jurisdiction. On that basis, the court struck out the suit and allowed the appeal by the APC. The court said, no, you shouldn't have. The Federal High Court in Osogbo should not have entertained the PDP's case. So on that basis, the court struck out the suit and, allowed the appeal of the APC. Now, you would recall that in the judgment, which I have carefully read over and over again, there is no order that says, oh, you should reinstate the chairman. Yes. There is no specific order. As if that was not enough, you would also recall from how I started
there's
that there's an
APP
case. That APP case, the APC appealed against it, but the APC did not follow through. That for 23 months, they abandoned that appeal. And the lawyer to APP, the lawyer to OSEC, now ironically, the lawyer to Osun State Independent Electoral Commission, whom the judgment was given against at the trial court, at the Federal High Court, said, Court of Appeal, these people have not compiled record. They brought us to court. Can you please dismiss this suit? And the Court of Appeal agreed with them and dismissed the appeal that was filed by the APC. The implication of which is that judgment that nullified the election of the local government officials is unshaken and still legally binding. What is the implication of that? The implication is simply that as of today, the judgment that was obtained by APP that nullified the election of the local government officials, the councillors and the local government chairman, remains valid. And because the position of the law is that judgment of court has to be obeyed, you don't have a choice, you don't have a discretion. The judgment is there. Those that are occupying, the nullification of the election has to be obeyed as it stands.
So there's no basis for PDP
absolutely
councillors and
there is-
local government chairmen to try to resume office? Because
Look, we are a country operating by laws. If a judgment says, oh, the Federal High Court should not have assumed jurisdiction, ordinarily, that judgment did not say that, oh, I have reinstated. There is no consequential order clearly stating that, oh, you have to be reinstated. What you should have done, assuming there is even an order stating that, oh, the local government chairman has to be reinstated since the lower court lacks jurisdiction, what you should have done is to enforce judgment. Under our jurisprudence, there is a process, there is a procedure for enforcing judgment. The question is that, why was that judgment not enforced in the legal and proper way? You cannot resort to self-help in enforcing judgments. But I am equally not surprised that the judgments, they are not attempting to enforce it in the procedural manner. Because there is nothing to be enforced. Because the court said there is no jurisdiction. So what do you want to enforce? There is nothing to enforce. In any case, I've said it that assuming there was even something to enforce, you don't go there to start causing breakdown of law and order. Because when there is a succeeding judgment, valid judgment delivered in November 2022 in that APP's case, you cannot go to this local government secretariat and asking them to leave forcefully. You don't forcefully take over control of governmental machinery. There are procedures for the enforcement of a judgment. That is, if at all, if that judgment even says, you should be reinstated. But whether the judgment says you should be reinstated or not is even not the issue. The major issue is that there is a valid judgment which you have failed, because you have the opportunity, you have the right of appeal, which you have failed to, properly challenge. You started it, you didn't compile and transmit record for over 23 months. Now, that appeal was dismissed. That even puts them in a bigger danger, because once an appeal is dismissed, what do? The best thing you can do is to appeal to the Supreme Court, because that appeal has been dismissed as of today. Right. So my concern is that I believe that we are running a country of laws. So one cannot afford to resort to self-help. That is, taking gangsterism too far.
Unfortunately, that's the reality of what we have seen. We've seen that they resorted to self-help to try to implement an order, like you said, that doesn't exist. But what should have been a better course of action for the aggrieved members of the All Progressives Congress who feel like, they should have been the ones in power? What should have been a better legal step to take? As in, with the facts that we have here, that, yes, okay, the APC, the initial one with the APC had been, struck out, I believe.
Absolutely.
And then the one with the APP, they failed to follow up on the appeal, yes, right? And then it had, yes, been struck out. So what should have been dismissed? Sorry.
Yes.
So what should have been the rightful legal course of action that the PDP should have taken?
The APC.
The APC, sorry, yes.
You see, in my modest opinion, I have posited that they have two options, or let me say three options. The first is to explore resuscitating that appeal. I believe it is still legally possible, because that appeal was not dismissed on the merits. It was dismissed because they failed to diligently prosecute it.
Yes.
I wouldn't call it technical, because they failed to diligently prosecute it. You brought me to court.
And you forgot.
For 23 months, you didn't do what you should do. You didn't transmit and compile records with which the Court of Appeal would even assume jurisdiction to even, determine the matter. I'm not wondering, if you could compile and transmit record for the PDP's case, why didn't you compile and transmit record for the APP's case? Could it be on the false assumption or the erroneous assumption that, maybe the judgment in PDP has more weight than the judgment in APP? So
that's a flaw on the part of their lawyers.
I believe, I'm not casting aspersion on the professional competence of the lawyers, but I believe that maybe it's a strategy for them. I wouldn't know, but abandoning that,
or maybe they thought the APP was a small party.
To our question, I mean, that's also what I feel. But to our question again, I feel that they could make attempt to resuscitate it. The rule of the Court of Appeal says after the judgment, the ruling dismissing the appeal or striking out the appeal is made, you shall bring an application to release it within 7 days. So who knows when the judgment the ruling was delivered in January in respect of the APP's case, who knows whether they would have taken steps to resuscitate it. Or if they feel aggrieved by the dismissal, they have a right to appeal to the Supreme Court. It's a constitutional right.
Right.
Not just that, I am aware also that there is an election coming in.
Oh yes, that brings me to this question. Wouldn't that further complicate things with these judgments? The Osun State Independent Electoral Commission is planning to hold local government elections this weekend, and you still have this case of the 2022 elections. People are still fighting and bickering over it. Would it not further complicate things in Osun State?
I do not believe there will be any complication, and I will tell you why. Ordinarily, by dint of the decision of the Supreme Court last year in the case of AGF and Abia State and others, where the Supreme Court made it abundantly clear that there must be, for you to receive federal allocation now, there must be a democratically elected local government council. So it is now a matter of imperative legal obligation, constitutional obligation for Osun State to have democratically elected local government officials for the local government to run smoothly. So, as it stands, they stand nullified by date of the APP judgment. What I feel also, even it ought to have been done before now, there ought to have been a local government election. Because as it stands, there are no validly elected local government council members. So why should another election not be conducted? Especially when the appeal with which they could have resuscitated, the position have been dismissed. Should the entire people of Osun State wait?
But the tension, the palpable tension in the polity, the heated political atmosphere, would this be the right time in overriding public interest?
I would say that the whole tension is manageable and avoidable. The judgment of the APP is clear. It's very clear. The judgment of the APP is clear. That, look, these people stand, dissolved.
Let's go back to that tension that Gbenga just spoke about. Unfortunately, this is not just a tension of two different parties quarreling. Lives were lost.
Or intellectuals.
It's not intellectual. It wasn't just an intellectual debate. It was a violent tension.
Absolutely.
Lives were lost. Lives of Nigerian citizens were lost.
Absolutely.
What legal steps should be taken to ensure that the lives of these persons that were lost these lives were not just lost in vain?
I'm even surprised. Maybe I should speak from the level of knowledge that I have as at now. Those people behind this mayhem in Osun State, who wants to forcefully take law into their hands, I believe they should be prosecuted by now. I believe so because we are running a constitutional democracy where the act of government must be in line with the dictates of law. I believe that those people causing the tension, they are not ghosts, they are humans. Was it not sometime last week that a meeting was held where some political heavyweights in the state were insisting that, you have to go there to take over? No, that is the cause of the tension. If an appeal has been made, a judgment has been made against you, you feel you want to enforce the judgment, there are procedures to enforce judgment. In any case, there is a judgment, valid judgment still saying you cannot go
exactly,
near the
legal
seat of power. So if that is the case, when we are talking about violence, I think the violence is not an organic one. It is one that is actuated by political elements.
Okay, I had asked our guests this question yesterday, and I'm going to ask you now because of the angle this conversation is going to.
Yes.
We don't have any clear evidence to say who exactly has incited this violence. Whilst there can be inference.
I'm not, with due respect, not going to agree with you.
Tell me, who do you think is behind the violence?
I would say with all sense of sincerity that as it stands, the violence would not have happened in the first place if the beneficiaries of the appeal judgment in the PDP's case have not been confrontational. There wouldn't have been violence. I have never heard, even when people lose election at the election tribunal, you've lost an election, a sitting governor has lost an election. You don't go and forcefully take power.
So what I'm
Go there to forcefully take power. You follow the due process of law. See, sometime in 2023, we represented someone at the election tribunal who won at the tribunal. He won at the tribunal, at the Court of Appeal, the dynamic changed. He was sacked at the Court of Appeal. He started running helter-skelter. I said, no, you have to leave the office because from the Court of Appeal, you can no longer go to anywhere. The person that won at the Court of Appeal did not engage in combat because they are procedure. And when it was time, he left office and that one.
Okay.
That is how it should be.
So still going back to that.
Yes.
I mean, you said that this violence would not have happened if there wasn't a pushback from those who felt like the elections did not favor them. But I believe that you're in this case referring to the former governor of Osun State. And if it's possible, I mean, I'm not holding brief for him, but it is possible that he, of course, did not believe in the outcome of the elections, but that he may have followers or fans that are overzealous. We've seen in cases where certain things happen, where people try to maybe distance themselves from it. So if he comes out today to condemn the violence and say that, no life should be lost, will that count for something?
I'm not a politician, and I don't want to hold brief for anybody. But in all sincerity, we are aware that a meeting was held in Osun State where the Minister for Marine and Blue Economy, and in a meeting he held with the sacked local government executives, he assured them that they will get back their mandate. He assured them that there is a cooperation of security agencies. I read it in the news, so I mean, credible news platform.
Yes.
Where he held the meeting and told them that he has a cooperation of security agencies to ensure that they return back to office. That was when the politics.
And there was a preemptive state address by the governor that tomorrow this person is trying to foment trouble and all of that. But finally, in 30 seconds, before we go, just in 30 seconds, looking at the way we practice our democracy in Nigeria, the state independent electoral commissions are meant to conduct elections, local government elections in the states. INEC's constitutional responsibility is to conduct elections and announce results. Why are courts inundated with electoral cases? Is it that we can't run a civilized democracy? Why do we have to go to the courts for any little thing?
You see, a lot of people are not aware yet.
If you can, in 30 seconds.
A lot of people are not aware yet that the Electoral Act 2022 made an innovation, which states that for every election conducted by the state local government, the state electoral body, it must conform with the provisions of the Electoral Act that relates to the conduct of election at the Federal Capital Territory. So therefore, there is a new jurisprudence which has necessitated our people to approach court so that the state electoral commissions will not act as if they are above the law. So
we have a few more days. I mean, Saturday 22nd is the elections. We'll see how things turn out.
Absolutely. I believe all parties should participate in the election in the interest of our democracy.
Interesting. Festus Ogun, thank you for talking to us about Osun.
Thank you.
Maybe when we're having Ogun conversations again, we'll bring you in.
Thank you.
All right,
very much, Festus.
we will be going on a quick break now. When we come back, we have other conversations with you this morning. Stay with us. In a massive operation, the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, Nafdac, has sealed over 3,000 drug shops in Lagos and confiscated 24 truckloads of fake drugs in Anambra and Abia states. According to Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, Director General of Nafdac, the agency has discovered 2 massive warehouses stocked with fake and expired medicines in Aba, Idumota, and Onitsha. The seized items include expired potassium chloride, allergy medications, immune boosters, and cholesterol treatments.
Now, according to Nafdac, the seized items, which also include cocodamol and counterfeit GSK ampy clocks, were swiftly evacuated in an ongoing crackdown on the illegal trade, which has led to the arrest of several individuals. Though the prime suspect remains at large. Join us this morning to discuss the menace of fake drugs in Nigeria is public affairs analyst, Professor Simeon Na. A warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Breakfast Central.
Welcome, viewers.
Now, how significant is the problem of fake drugs in Nigeria today, and the recent incidents we've seen of this Boston, Lagos, Aba, how does it highlight the urgency of addressing it?
Matter of fact, I don't know where to start with, because this has been a recurring decimal. Record in the days of Kunyele. I think she was the first person that made this fake drug an issue, a major issue in Nigeria. And they almost killed her. They shot at her, and thank God for her headgear. The thing pierced her headgear, and it was those people that are dealing on this fake drug that shot her. So it's a thing that the government should think about seriously. And I have a challenge with Nafdac. The challenge with Nafdac is that I don't think they're operating with intelligence like the NDLA. You see that each time NDLA will strike, they strike with intelligence, they hit the target and get what they want and move out. But in the case of Nafdac, they just wake up one morning, move into a place. They don't.
You think it's just random busts?
Yes, it is. It is not the best. Look at the issue in Onitsha now. I learned they went, raided some shops that even the owners of those shops were not there. Raided 5 adjoining markets that are not dealing in drugs. Like people that are dealing in, they say pharmaceutical materials, surgery materials, people that are dealing in carpentry materials, plumbing materials. They went and raided them.
What does that have to do
with drugs? You see, no sane individual will support fake drugs. But when you want to root out people that are on this thing, please do it with precision. Ensure that the people now they shut out the market for how many days now? Since the 9th. And I listened to the DG Nafdac, and she was saying that they have not even determined when they are going to open those markets. And look at the people that are not involved in fake drugs. What are you doing about them?
Was any laboratory test carried out to determine those drugs are fake?
They're not determining anything. That's what they are now saying, that they want to now find out. They want to do thorough investigation. In fact, she was saying that of Lagos will be opened very soon, which is a political statement as far as I'm concerned, because very soon can be this time next year. But once politicians are talking and they're telling you very soon, they don't mean anything, because you can't pick them down on very soon. And they said that of Aba and Onitsha, they have not even determined when they are going to open those markets. So what we're saying is that yes, they should go and root out those fake drugs, because the fake drug is affecting everybody. You never know who is going to buy the fake drug, where you're going to buy it from. You might say you're going to a big pharmaceutical. Those big pharmaceuticals companies don't manufacture, some of them don't manufacture this drug. They bring them in from Aba, Onitsha, and what have you. So when you say it doesn't concern me, well, one day you get sick and you get to the hospital and you never can tell. They might administer you with the fake drug. So what we're saying in effect is that these people should move with precision. They should be able to, know the people that are on this fake drug, go there and arrest them. Yes. Okay, now they say the people are at large, which means they were not operating with intelligence.
But I think that doesn't, take away the fact that we do have a challenge when it comes to getting quality, correct medication. We have reports of people who have died because they've taken fake medication. Yeah. I mean, even looking at food, interestingly, just in our makeup room, I have a bag. I bought chin-chin 2 days ago from a certain supermarket, and I didn't realize until I got home and I saw that the manufacturing date and the expiry date was, The manufacturing date reads 10th of May 2025. We're in February.
Wow, you are eating your future.
You know, so the manufacturing date reads 10th February and the expiry date reads 2027, which obviously
That's
tells me
that Chin is using AI.
AI, right? It obviously tells me that is an expired product and they've just fabricated the date. You know, so what is it that makes it easy for us to be able to, if that check wasn't done, I probably wouldn't have noticed.
Yeah.
So what is it? Would you say it's weak regulations? Or would you say maybe we don't have stronger prosecution? What would you say are the factors that are ensuring that we have problems like this?
There are so many factors. You've highlighted some. Some of them are, I don't think they have adequate staff to go around some of these shops to find out these things. Because, you see, it's easy to stay in the office and give a Nafdac number, give a license to somebody, he pays for it and walks away. What he does with that number, you don't know. Experience has shown that they use that number for so many other products outside the product that Nafdac has registered. So I think they don't have enough staff to move around to check some of this. And that's what I feel, one. Secondly, weak regulation, because at the end of the day, I recall that in 2025 now, 2023, they raided Aba, one market in Aba that is called Cemetery Market, for fake production of drinks, beverages, and hot drinks. Now, how many people were persecuted? That's the issue. They raided that market. We saw loads of shops that were, bottling these drinks in Aba, and these are fake drinks that they were bottling there. Now, how many people were arrested? How many of them were persecuted? How many of them are in jail? These are the issues. So there are weak regulations. These people just go there. I don't want to say they collect something from them and walk away. They just come and show us the things on television. How can you tell me that you went to a warehouse where you discovered 300 and something thousand cartons of drugs and you don't know who owns that place?
And that brings me to my question, because when it's at that warehouse,
Yeah.
I mean, it's gone to pharmacies across the country. There are distribution channels. How can we get to the source of it? If you are sure these are fake drugs, how do we nip it at the bud? That's why you suggested an intelligence-driven operation.
While I was sitting down there, something was running out my brain. And that is that we have agencies that have overlapping functions. Why don't you remove this drug administration and add it to NDLA? That's what I was feeling down there. I said, look, we have organizations that have overlapping functions. If you
Even standards standards organization of Nigeria.
If you ask them now, they will tell you, this one is drug administration. No, drug is drug, my brother. Except you are now trying to, build some mountains out of a molehill. After all, you see, that's why they are doing better out there. Let me give you one example outside this. I had a workshop for one organization in the aviation industry. And that was when we were looking at Electropolis. And I said, look, outside here, in US, in Canada, the agencies that are in charge of accidents are one: road, sea, and air. But here, you have for A, you have for C, you have... I don't know, why are we duplicating these functions? Look at the accident that they had in US yesterday. You said the accident investigation has said this, and that accident investigation covers road, covers rail, covers air.
Maybe we need a department of government efficiency.
So as far as this is concerned, I'm looking at the situation where they remove drug administration, add it to NDLA, and let them face food, and what have you.
That's an option. Let's also talk about we as citizens and the role that we have to play in ensuring that, this is not a challenge that we have to deal with in another decade. We're seeing the NDLEA that you mentioned, we have 14 million Nigerians that have become hooked on substance abuse. Nafdac is making these bust fake drugs. And I don't know that citizens understand the depth of the implication of purchasing fake drugs. People still, I mean, we've seen a reduced element of it, or maybe I'm speaking because I'm not in the heart of the mainland. Certain parts of the country, I'm sure, I mean, growing up, we used to see chemists. People will buy, when you're sick, you go and buy from chemists. Even like malams that sell painkillers, over-the-counter medication. So what role do the citizens have to play in ensuring that we do not continue to have situations like this? And is there also a role that maybe the National Orientation Agency has to play in terms of sensitizing citizens on the implication of fake drugs?
They have national orientation. I think that thing has been dead since the era of MAMSA, where what's his name again? I remember his name. That was a time that agency was functioning when it was MAMSA.
Under Babangida.
Yeah. Can I remember? Why am I forgetting this guy's name? Okay. Now, after him, and we came to this national orientation, I don't think they're doing anything. If you ask them, they'll tell you budget this, budget that. They don't have enough budget to do this. They don't have enough budget to do that. And again, we are talking of the role of citizens. The whistleblowing policy in Nigeria doesn't work. That's the issue. People have whistleblown, and at the end of the day, they are the people that are going to jail. You see, so there are issues. You blow the whistle, another person blows the whistle. There are issues here and there. You blow the whistle, they turn it around. Before you know it, you are in trouble. So people are scared. You report to police, and police will go and tell the person, this is the person that reported you, and they start hunting the person.
So we need to ensure that we have the whistleblower policy.
That is it.
Check and tightened.
Tightened so that when somebody blows the whistle, he doesn't become the whistle himself.
How about us as a people, like Olive said, searching your conscience? Because if you give a baby fake drugs, it's almost a death sentence. It's as good as putting a gun to their head. If you look at Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, it's even on the visas that, look, drug trafficking comes with a death sentence. Some have suggested that because these things kill, fake drugs kill. I have a family friend, she took fake medicine and has condition deteriorated faster, and she died before her time. So some have suggested the death penalty as a way to discourage people from from dealing in counterfeit drugs. What are your thoughts on that?
Some countries have, like you mentioned, and I can tell you for free, Germany, for instance, if they catch you on fake drugs or trafficking in drugs, you know what they do? They inject you and let you go. You go and die. It's as simple as that. So it's the same thing with I know one or two people in Nigeria here that carried drugs to Germany. They were caught. They were injected. They came here. When they finished their money, they could maintain themselves again. They just died. They wasted all the whole money they have gotten on earth, and they died. So if Nigeria will bring a policy where when you traffic on fake drugs, and you know that these things are dangerous, you buy it, people now, at the end of the day, and you see, one of the things that make people do this is that some of the people in government even take these drugs. Some of the people in government have gone to rehab. So what are we saying here? And so when they look at this people, okay, this one has gone to rehab, now he's a governor, now he's a this, now he's a senator, he's the other one, he's the other one. So at the end of the day, there are no laws to check these things. That's what we're saying. So if we had issues that, okay, if you have gone to rehab as a result of drugs, you can't hold any political position in this country.
If there were consequences.
There are no consequences at all.
So that's for hard drugs, not medication.
No, for hard drugs. Okay. No, we are looking at it holistically. Okay. I don't know whether I am separating the two. That was why I said cannabis, drug and drug abuse. And when you talk of drug abuse, it includes hard drugs.
I mean, it's a lot. Even coming down to all those mamas that sell agbo that don't understand what they are mixing. They mix different things to you, and they give you. There are people that will tell you that, if I'm sick, don't take me to the hospital. Just mix agbo. That is not to say that native medicine doesn't work, but sometimes because you cannot guarantee the dosage, the quality, you just take it, and at the end of the day, I mean. Pastor Simeon, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the show. We look forward to not having conversations like this. It's very heartbreaking to keep talking about these conversations over and over again. But I would say well done to Nafdac for the bust. We look forward to seeing more and more people being exposed, but not just exposed, being prosecuted as deterrent to ensure that we don't keep going over the same cycles.
Yeah, welcome back to Breakfast Central. It's time for us to find out what big stories are making headlines in today's dailies. And join us for this is public affairs analyst Sheson Okwade. Well, welcome to you, Sheson, and thanks for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday morning.
Yeah, good morning, Binga. Good morning, Oli.
Good morning.
Nice to have you back. The last
I've been
time
back
I saw you, I was,
I've been back since. So in fact,
yeah, it's
my vacation has expired at this point.
Yeah, it's but I have not seen you since you
Okay,
came back
yes,
from vacation.
yes, I haven't seen you as well.
Valid.
Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. So much has happened since we last saw, and especially in the last few days.
I mean, a week in Nigerian politics is...
You miss a week.
In fact, a day.
Yes.
You are not
One drama of the
I go on holiday and I come back and I see, I'm like, when did this one happen? When? Just 24 hours and a lot
we
has
thought
happened.
Once they were done with the Obasa impeachment, we thought that was it.
That was
You'll
it,
come back as an ordinary member. But
And be like, Sarah, whatever we
we're
do.
seeing season 1, season 2. But let's start with
The season is just starting.
Yes. Let's start with the review of the newspapers. We'll start with Daily Independent. And the headline there, I like this one. Politicians will behave well when you reject bad behavior, says former President Goodluck Jonathan.
No lies told, though.
And a forced deployment of military for elections. Yes, we've been conducting elections since 1999. And even when we have off-cycle elections, they are so eager to say we've deployed X thousand numbers of military to... I mean, this is a civil exercise. We're not fighting war. So I really like the Democrats in former President Jonathan. Lessons to be learned here. We'll come back to it. 35-year-old jinx broken as FG conditions NDLEA barracks. Wow. So they didn't have barracks since they used to come from home. Work from home. Interesting. Now there's another headline there. Reps probe INEC over delay in conducting by-elections. And Nigeria Electricity Regulation Commission introduces tougher measures to combat electricity theft. And of course, this is on the front of many newspapers, the passing of elder statesman Chief Edwin Clark. Tinubu, Ibori, Jonathan, Atiku, Northern Southern governors mourn Clark. Talks on fuel quality, just drama and bad marketing antics, says Kyari, the NNPC boss. And National Assembly revises 2025 budget, reduces capital expenditure by over 500 billion. What is this yo-yo with the budget? What's going on? But the president is yet to assent to the bill, so we'll see what happens. Now, after rebasing, this is a big one. After rebasing, Nigeria's inflation drops to 24.48% from 34.80%. And we also have FG to facilitate single-digit loans for MSMEs. Positive news there.
All right, let's move on to the next paper. And the next paper this morning is the Punch newspaper. Workers in 109 embassies groan over 6 months unpaid salaries. Ministry promises to clear arrears, ex-envoys kick. John Vance, UK agency, invests $40.5 million to expand Nigeria's cocoa industry. Ukraine protests exclusion as US-Russia raise team to end war. Lagos Assembly says Tinubu's wife not involved in crisis. Just to be clear, they've vindicated Rabi Tinubu. Immigration arrests 40 illegal migrants in Oyo. Osun crisis, police go after killers. Local government poll holds on Saturday. At the top of the paper, inflation drop. Experts demand lower interest rate. Dangote's wealth rises to $24 billion after refineries operations. Tinubu, Obasanjo, others mourn as Edwin Clark dies at 97. 54 trillion naira budget. National Assembly raises recurrent vote. Cuts 500 billion naira from capital spending. And that's all on the Punch. And let's take a look at our final paper, the Nigerian Tribune.
And on the Nigerian Tribune, the headline there says, bank directors with non-performing insider loans to resign. CBN orders asks banks to regularize loans within 180 days. Also have Jonathan kicks against deployment of military personnel for elections. Nigerian Bureau of Statistics explains why Nigeria's inflation rate falls to 24.48% after rebasing. And 5 days after passage, the National Assembly adjusts portions of 2025 budget retains 54.99 trillion total. And reps organize public hearing on new tax reform bills next Wednesday and probe INEC over delay in conducting 12 by-elections. That's a huge number. Okay, and 789 ex-terrorists undergoing de-radicalization and rehabilitation program. An appeal court I really can't. Affirms Oba Olaoye as son of Ogbomosho. So even traditional leaders are going to court, politicians are going to court, local government, everybody is just going to court these days. Obaship too, you have to go to court. I thought Obaship was given by the gods.
Well,
and some of the A's and wine.
A's and wines have been restricted in Asaba, so you know. Let's start with the big story on the front page of Daily Independent. Politicians will behave well when we reject bad behavior, says the former president Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. I think, first of all, do you agree with the statement? And if you do, what will rejecting bad behavior look like?
First and foremost, a lot of us have said we have this issue of a value proposition, and that's where we found ourselves this day. A lot of anomalies, shortcomings that have suddenly become norms that when you do it. And I'll start practically from seeing somebody following one way and putting a military man in front and feels that he has the excuse to follow the one way, and nobody's challenging the status quo. And it becomes a norm. When you even picked him up, the officer is like, let him go. That is someone that should enforce the law. Is carrying it. You see politicians, they part of the bad behaviors who accuse them of is you are in the traffic. Why must you even blow siren? Yeah. Why must you kick us off the road? These are issues a lot of us found difficult to ask. How did we get here? You call yourself servant of the people. You have failed in executing certain things, causing bottleneck, and you are still the same set of people that will come on the road, chase people out with your siren. So I feel that Jonathan has been a man I respect so much, even after yielding the floor. At least he's on record that the first president that will congratulate the opponent, irrespective of what actually happened. Even he came out with the word to say Nigerians or the politicians, they are not worth sacrificing your blood for. He came out with that statement. So coming out with this, he's been in it, he knows the in and out. And I think our politician needs to be redefining the scope of what we call the good values. With what is happening in America, trying to put such light in so many things that are happening now, I feel we'll start resetting ourselves. If we can get our value,
even understand the powers they have. That's it. Because the way, I mean, everybody wants to live like a king. And if I see somebody kowtowing and acting slave-like towards me, of course you continue to live like that until the people demand accountability and say, no, you can't jump this queue, you can't chase us off the road.
Yeah, you see, it's not that we don't know, but just very few. And we have this idea. If you are in a bus and one person raised the idea to say, sir, you can't follow one way, the remaining 17 passengers, if it's a woman, they will consider you to be a witch. But what's the problem? Let him go. Can't you see the traffic? It's to tell you that it's not that we don't know the right thing to do, but we have actually metamorphosed into a place where all we want to do is cut corners in all that we do. And that's reducing the value system that we have. And I have this to say. While some of us are growing up, we have some certain subjects being taught in school that speaks to how to behave in the society. We have moral instructions. We have the certain things you should learn. But the problem we have is that, who are you learning from? Who are the leaders that you can point to? The current politicians will tell you that they are product of Obafemi Awolowo. They are product of Nnamdi Azikiwe. They are product of Tafawa Balewa. Who among the current politicians can the younger generation quickly adhere to and say, these are the good value we have learned from our leaders and we are following their steps? All we're saying is that a lot of people want to get to power, and what we want to do is live an affluent life that will oppress the people out there, because that's what we know.
I mean, when you give young people opportunities, look at Better Edu, for example, and the way she can stop the slot for young people.
It's an area, because a lot of people have called me that do I have issue personally with Better, and I've asked. Up till now, we saw the beginning of the film. We don't know where we are on it. And don't be surprised with that happened. Come 2027, she might be contesting for a particular
we wish I will.
Because that's what we see happening. A lot of things will happen. You just play it down for a while and resurface again. And as Nigerians, we just forget it. And that's why we speak to our value proposition.
We'll come back to the newspaper front pages, but let's hear from Lenin calling from Abuja. Good morning, Lenin.
Good morning, Oli. Good morning, Brother.
Morning, Lenin.
Please, I want to talk about this fake drugs, this thing. I want to analyze something. Now, they said they caught 24 containers worth a load of fake drugs, right? Only these drugs will pass from the port or land border, right? In the port, there are custom officers, there are NDLEA, Nafdac, all the security agencies are there, right? The land border, same thing. Now, if this thing pass from the port, you are not catching them in the market. Who are the people that clear them from the ports? Who are the people that clear them from the land border? So this thing is a systematic line. So you cannot just catch the tail. There's somebody in the head. It's a chain, right? So let's not deceive ourselves. The people in the port are corrupt, just like the person that imported this thing. Now, remember that if you check the news very well, they've been catching people with firearms, importing firearms, numerous firearms. Who are the people? Today, are they published anybody's name? Because all these things, Bill of Legend, the person name will be there, the company name will be there, and everything. So let's call it a spade. Once you start training these people, bringing these people to book, the Nigeria will be good. Thank you, Anabel.
Thank you very much, Lenin. And these are very valid points he raises. Yes. When we are talking about, because before you came in, our conversation was centered on Nafdac and the busting of illegal drug ports and illegal containers. And the question is, how did these things get into Nigeria? He's raised the valid point. We have customs, we have the land borders, the sea borders. How did they, cross through?
You as an individual, when you come into Nigeria, do you know how many agencies you
have to check? Exactly.
Yes. The issue there is corruption has eaten so deep into our system that it's practically becoming a norm. When you are not part of it, people look at you and say, are you a saint? Some politician will tell you that even the followers will be the one to ask you the question, bros, you are there, you have not brought in anything. And that's why you see the pressure actually mounting. What Lini said is quite apt to say that a lot of these things will pass some certain, and it's because we lack this consequential management to say there are consequences for wrongdoing. We don't adhere to that. You see a lot of people, it is confirmed that they've stolen our money. They will come back and say, plea bargaining. We are giving you some, and we are taking some. So what happened to those things? But most of the time when you come, they say this democratic setting, we can't go the route of the Asian, where capital punishment is just the way to go. Because you have denied certain set of people. Imagine funds that is meant for the health sector, to develop the health sector, that is not being used.
Yes.
A lot of people are dying because of the failure of what you are supposed to do.
It's not a harmless question.
So you are now being caught, and the next thing is plea bargaining, possibly give 50% and you go with the 50%. All you're doing is just to encourage other people to do it.
Okay, let's get into the paper. I wanted you to speak on what's going on with the Lagos State House of Assembly, especially because I don't know if any of you have seen the purported letter of resignation that is on social media. It's not from the official Lagos State House of Assembly. So it would seem that there are calls from different corners for her to sort of resign, or they're trying to manipulate it by hook or by crook. Lagos Assembly says Tinubu's wife is not involved in crisis. On the one hand, we have that. We have Osun crisis happening at the same time. So it feels like it's like a boat that is moving, and there are different holes on that boat, causing water to get into the boat. Osun crisis, number of lives have been lost. local government election is happening on Saturday. Police have said that they are going after the killers. We had a guest earlier, and I asked him what his expectation is, because unfortunately, lives of Nigerians have been lost. How can we ensure that those lives are not lost in vain? He said he would hope that those who have perpetrated this or have sponsored this will be apprehended. So, do you have any faith that we'll get to the root of this and that the killers will be apprehended?
Olive, the fact is how many of the previous issues like this that it's obvious to us, how many of those that perpetrated that act have actually been punished. These are problems that we have, and that's what, you see, I always refer to this issue of terrorism. You know, the way it started was just a small thing that we should have nipped at the bud. But we left it, and it became a business that people are proud to associate with. And you see why saying this is what my husband is doing, is a kidnapper, is a terrorist. And that is the same thing we are seeing happening with some of the issues with our politicians. When people go for, you see, you picked some of the guys that are being used. You don't go to the root matter of those that are sponsoring them. Those that are actually perpetrated. When this last election, I don't know, in one particular state, they caught one guy with huge amount of money. You need to juxtapose the guy and the amount of money and ask yourself, can he actually possess this? You know, there is a way you will look at individual and say, no, it's
just basic intelligence. You can
so you know that definitely someone actually gave him that funds to go and share with the people. So when you deal with the guy will not even open up to tell you who they are. Even when they open up to tell you, there are ways you cover up some of those things. And that's why we are where we are today. If anybody is telling you that they will bring some of those people to justice, I am saying, my personal view, that will not happen, because we've seen a lot.
But if we continue like this, we are having a highly dysfunctional society, and it makes it a free-for-all if there are no consequences for actions. But quickly, because we have just a few minutes before we wrap up, reps probe INEC over delay in conducting by-elections. Some members of some politicians have died in the course of the year, and there's been court judgments. What are the implications of not conducting by-elections on time? And also, Professor Mahmoud did talk about the behemoth that INEC is, saying you conduct an off-cycle election, it's almost like conducting a presidential election in a few West African countries because of how big our population is, and is asked for more funds for INEC. Could this be one of the reasons why we're seeing a delay in the conduct of by-elections?
Yeah, first and foremost, I will ask, calling for probe of this INEC stuff. There are other issues that we feel we should, but we see the failure of one particular area will give somebody work to do. It's a normal thing. If you are to conduct by-election, you should ask for fund. But you know, most of the time, why you have delay in some of these things is that, have we accounted for the ones that are actually, is it judiciously being put to use?
An audit. Yes.
You know, do you verify, carry out audit exercise of things that have actually happened in time past? If some of those things, if there is no clarity on how you expended the last fund and you're asking for more, I'm sure you know there will be delay in actually disbursing out more funds. And then can we come to, if it's not going to work, because what you are doing is that you are shortchanging those constituencies, those areas where those by-elections, they are representatives that are supposed to be either at the National Assembly or at the State House of Assembly because of a failure. If they are not there, they are not represented, and they are shortchanging them. And the law has actually brought it out that this by-election must hold. So if you have if they are inviting it, it's what they should do. If we know that having all these side election cost us more, then let's create a law that will consolidate to say within the specific period, we are going to be having all these by-election. If we have every quarter, we must have one. Every six months, every two months, we should come with an agreement. If there is no law to back that up, what it stipulates is that if there's a by-election, I think within 90 days, the INEM must carry that out. And we've seen issues where it's lasting longer than necessary, and that's why they are calling for the
So a school of thought has suggested that, because of the delay in disbursing funds from the ministry, the bureaucracy and all of that, that they should have access to funds from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Do you agree with that?
No, I won't want to agree with that because we don't have a system that thoroughly checked activities that we're doing. We will be opening more door for. See, this bottleneck on its own has its own plus, if you ask me. Although a lot of people will say you're only opening more doors for other people to eat out of the largesse of what we have in there. But at least everybody starts scrutinizing what is going on rather than just having individual having direct access to the fund without proper questioning of what it should be. I think the basic thing that we lack, which we have been crying and advocating for, is to have a system that works. Once you can have a system that works, everybody plugged into it. Even when you don't even understand the system will teach you what is expected of you as an individual, and Nigeria will be better off for it.
Okay, let's quickly bring in our correspondent, Ademola Adeleke, who's in Katsina. There's been reports of a bombing that may or may not have occurred. We want Emmanuel Bagudu to give us direct details. Good morning, Emmanuel. Where are you and what is the update regarding the bombing that was announced?
Hello, Emmanuel. Are you there?
All right. Before we are able to connect to Emmanuel, I want you to speak to this.
Yeah, at Zakat Town, here in the Safana local government area. I'm just like 3 kilometers away from the scene of the air mishap. And of course, I'm in front of the local vigilante's office who are actually going to take me to that particular venue. But of course, on my way coming down here, of course, all communities around here have been, Seaward, right? Yeah, Seaward, of course, where it has happened. Of course, surrounding communities here have been ransacked by bandits, and of course, they have been taken away from their communities. Just behind me, of course, is where the Air Force mishap happened, and of course, the families affected are soon going to come out, to speak to me. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any
updates from the Air
regarding
Force? Yes.
Exactly?
Has there been any statements from the Nigerian Air Force regarding this incident?
Yes. There is a statement. Of course, the statement shows that there is an investigation. The Air Force has ordered an investigation into the scene, to the Air Force mishap. Of course, the vigilante here told us that they receive an intel that they are going to receive a delegation of the Air Force coming down here, to come and investigate what happened. So, of course, they have said they are going to make a valid statement after that investigation. But they have expressed worried about what had already happened here in Zakat ward. Yeah.
Do we also have any reports from the families of the bereaved, the civilians who were unfortunately killed? Because this is not the first time that we're hearing of accidental bombing. So have you spoken to them, or maybe you intend to speak to them at some point? All right.
Yes. A family of 6 was wiped out, and then one other person, to a total of 7. Yeah, making it a total of 7. So, of course, we are yet to meet the families. Of course, it's still early. We just arrived very early. And, of course, the vigilantes and the local security are going around, to pick up those who have been injured, those who have been affected, the bereaved, the ones left alive, to come and speak to us about what really happened. And then, of course, those who are injured. All details will be given to us in a few minutes' time as we just approach the community. This is Zakat ward, located here in the Safana local government area of Osun State, and the communities affected are Yoni. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much for bringing us.
Where, of course, there's a bandit camp there, which is yet to be, they are yet to be decimated by the military.
Thank you, Emmanuel, for bringing us the update. Our thoughts and our prayers are with the families of the bereaved, unfortunately. Let's come back into the studio and have you quickly react to that before we leave. This is not the first, second, or third time we're hearing about accidental bombings of civilians.
Well, it will go back to this idea of saying that those that have happened in time past, how much of punishment have we actually...
they would argue that it's collateral damage. They would tell you that they've done
reconnaissance for bandits.
That the bandits have interwoven themselves with the civilians. These are the reports that
we understand all those semantics and the grammar that they keep saying, but we can't continue hiding under the premise that we need to deal with the bandits and allow... we've asked that there should be more sensitization on the part of even some of these bandits. But what we've seen is that the populace on their own tends to find solace in the hands of the bandits. So you discover that they provide information for them. And that's what is quite worrisome. if you can't provide food as government to the people and they struggle, and somebody is providing those food for you to eat at everyone in time, who do you give those information to? We've read about this, we've seen some of these things happening, and that's why we're of the opinion that a lot of people at the IDP even suffers much more than the people that will are actually being caught to be terrorists and the other people. So we've asked, it should not be an idea of you giving preference to some of these terrorists. A lot of us have said it that when you get hold of them, you say you want to reintegrate them back into the system. It doesn't work that way because they've actually acted funny. Can we just use them, reduce their numbers so that it will serve as deterrent to others? Right. Well, it may sound a bit hard, but I feel that
you don't believe in de-radicalization.
I don't know about if that sounds a bit hard because these people have committed so much atrocities, and a number of Nigerians agree with this position from what you hear all the time.
And say you are using taxpayers' money to reintegrate them back into the system.
Especially because we will find that if those in the East would argue, the IPOB advocates would argue that, you know, you're not giving them the same treatment that you're giving the terrorists.
So for me, if we get hold of them and we discover that you perform one act, even as informant, we should just make you face the consequence and we'll move on.
It's unfortunate updates that we have. Sheson Kwadi, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Breakfast.
It's a pleasure to start the Make Way Quick.
All right, we have more segments to come. We'll be looking at Nafdac when it comes to Which Way Nigeria. And of course, we're still going to be talking about the report by the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics looking at the inflation rates and what this might mean. Stay with us.
This tiny pill could mean life or death. You trust it. You believe it will heal. You place your hope in it. But what if I told you this pill is a lie? What if I told you instead of curing, it kills? Fake drugs are everywhere, in pharmacies, shelves, in hospital dispensaries, even in the hands of desperate families trying to save a loved one. Expired, repackaged, and sold with deadly intent. A billion-naira industry built on deception, thriving on pain, and leaving a trail of corpses in its wake. Last week, 10 trucks of deadly fake drugs were seized in Onitsha. Counterfeit antibiotics, toxic anti-malarial pills, and fake BP meds. Nafdac found machines wiping expiry dates, arrested criminals, and rejected a 135 million naira bribe, blood money to keep the killing going. But how did these drugs flood the market in the first place? Was there any oversight? What's the regulatory body doing about it? The enforcement that was done before the lives were put at risk. In Lagos, over 3,000 drug shops were shut down. Seized vaccines stored in filth, banned injections, expired meds set for revalidation, and stolen HIV drugs. 12 more trucks of poison were cleared, including hidden codeine and tramadol 225. Silent killers waiting to strike. But shutting down rogue pharmacies is not enough. Who granted them licenses? Who allowed these poisons to be imported, distributed, and sold under the government's watch? Search your conscience. How many mothers have buried their children because of greed? How many fathers have watched their wives gasp for breath because the inhaler was a fraud? And yet these merchants of death walk among us. They smile in their homes. They eat from their blood-stained hands. But do they sleep? Do they hear the cries of those they have murdered in silence of the night? Do they dream of the babies who will never grow up because they swallowed a lie? The time of silence is over. We must demand accountability, not just from the criminals producing and selling fake drugs, but from those in government who have allowed this rot to fester. Where are the reforms? Where's the urgency? Where's the leadership? Fake drugs is a bullet in the body of our nation, and if we do nothing about it, we're complicit. And to those who fight against this horror, stand firm. The lives of millions depend on it. The question remains, how much is a human life worth? To some, it's worth a few naira notes crumpled in a back alley deal. To the rest of us, it should be priceless. Good morning, Nigeria.
very, very sad realities that we have to deal with as to the impact of fake drugs. And we hope that these questions hit hard home and that we can reflect on them. Let's now move the conversation away to look at Nigeria's headline inflation rate that has seen a sharp drop from 34.80% in December 2024 to 24.48% year-on-year in January 2025. The National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, says that the cost of the deduction is from the rebased Consumer Price Index, that is the CPI. The Statistician General of the Federation, Ademola Adeleke, explained that urban inflation stood at 26.09%, while rural inflation was recorded at 22.15%. Also, the CPI rebasing aligns with international standards, capturing updated consumer spending patterns. Now, here's what you should know.
The CPI rebasing contains the recent consumption patterns and national economic realities. Food inflation also reduced to 26.08% compared to 39.84% in December. Core inflation, which removes the prices on food and energy, is now at 22.59%. The CBN Governor Yemi Cardoso has also restated his efforts to curb inflation and stabilize Nigeria's economy. Joining us this morning to discuss this drop in inflation is the co-founder of Verif Africa, Basil Abia. Good morning to you, Basil, from the nation's capital, Abuja. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning, Banga, and good morning, Olive. A pleasure to join New Central this morning.
Now, Basil, the NBS has released the rebased CPI, which has led to a significant reported drop in the inflation rate. Now, for the average Nigerian, can you explain this, how this rebasing affects inflation figures and what it means to us?
Yeah, it's quite easy to explain from an economic or technical term, but I'll try to break it down to everyday Nigerians. So NBS is changing how it calculates inflation. Inflation basically is the calculation of the movement or the rate of movement of price year on year and month on month based on a particular price reference and weight reference period. So in this context, price reference period will be the period that they do the baseline survey to calculate all of the price changes. And then weight reference is the weight methodology for certain subcomponents of the inflation calculation. And one way to be able to explain that is that the National Bureau of Statistics are using 2023 as the weight reference period. They're using 2023 as the weight reference period because they carried out a livelihood survey, basically sampling households to see how much their expenditure on certain things are and what their consumption patterns are currently. And that meant that they had to change the weighting for food, for instance, from 51%, which was the old weighting methodology for inflation, to over 40%. And they also reduced that of housing expenditure when it comes to water, electricity, gas, and other fuels in households. And that weighting reduced by over 100%, from 16.7% to over 8.4%. So basically, the reason why inflation has reduced in the context of the new rebased CPI report is that they have reduced the weighting of the largest contributors to inflation, which is food, food component, like I told you, reduced to 40%, and also water, gas, housing, energy, and other fuels that are consumed in households. So the reduction of these two major contributors have ensured that we're seeing headline inflation rates reduced to 24.48%.
What year? Just to clarify, what's the base year for the rebasing? Because that was also a subject of controversy in the past few weeks when the conversation about rebasing the economy came up. And do you agree with the base year that was used?
Well, the base year is 2024. This is again, these are international best practices. But let me say this to answer your question directly. International best practices are global reference points. Local economies, local governance actors can either take this as suggestions and adhere to them, or they can use methods that are peculiar to their own macroeconomic environment. So in this context, I still, just like I did months ago when I was asked this question on New Central specifically, that I don't agree with the choice of 2024 as the price reference period, largely because of the context of volatility. You know, sometimes you have to be able to use nuance. And macroeconomic records, especially from a statistical point, you want to be able to pick stable periods that you use as your price reference period. Wage reference periods, I don't have any issue with it, because at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're increasing the number of composite price products that you're observing for their price changes. And that increased from over 740 to over to exactly 936 price products that they were observing. It also included that they had to carry out a household survey, living standard survey. And that obviously saw that, according to that data, household expenditure for food reduced on average from 51% to over 40%. So that is not an issue for me, and that's not an issue for a lot of analysts. But what a lot of analysts and economists that I've been speaking with over the last 1 month, what they're concerned with the new rebased CPI methodology is that the price reference period using 2024 is very volatile, significantly high. Our record high inflation on average for the year was recorded in 2024. Our record high food inflation rate was also recorded in 2024. If you use that as your price reference period, what it causes is an artificial distortion of the inflationary trend, because that is the peak period, you know, and since that is your peak alpha or your peak zero, you're going to use that as your reference. So if there is an inflection, which is in this sense a reduction in the rate of inflation over time, what happens is that the price reflection in the CPI doesn't accurately tell the story of inflation in the country.
So what should have been a better year?
You are seeing the...
What should have been a more accurate year if 2024, if analysts argue that 2024 wasn't a great year to use, for the rebasing? What should have been a better year?
A lot of people keep saying 2019, and I will toe to that line. 2019 was obviously the most stable year for the last 4 years. So why pick the most unstable year? 2019, of course, was just before the pandemic in 2020, and we know, of course, 2020 was really, really distorted in terms of the pandemic. That's also the period where Nigeria experienced a second recession. There was also a global recession and a global inflationary bust that trickled into the Nigeria's macroeconomic environment in 2021, when we had that large surge in headline inflation, especially food inflation in that context.
Now, Basil, looking ahead, what strategies should the Nigerian government use or adopt to ensure that inflation remains under control? Because many businesses have been adjusting their prices frequently due to economic stability. What do they need to do to stabilize the economy?
So from the short-term perspective, we need to be able to pump oil to about 1.8 million barrels per day on average. We are currently doing 1.5 million barrels. I know that certain government actors want to believe that we should hold on to the 1.8 million barrels lie by the NUPRC, but that is because they're adding condensates to that mix. If you remove condensates and just use pure oil production numbers, it's 1.5 million barrels, and that's just not enough. Let me also give you context that a significant chunk of the oil, the crude oil that we're producing, goes into repaying or servicing debts, because there are a number of resource-driven or crude-driven debt financing that we're able to access, especially the NMPC, we're able to access to enable carry out some trade as well as some other economic actions. Now, outside of that, outside of the pumping of the oil, and what that does is because a significant driver too, another significant driver for inflation in Nigeria is exchange rate pass-through. Now, macroeconomists call exchange rate pass-through when the exchange rate is very expensive. That passes through to consumer goods, and like you see, aggregate prices of consumer goods get increased. A typical example is when you're trying to buy foreign used cars. Because the exchange rate is really high, parallel market rate is around 1,500, and Now, of course, there's some form of uniformity too in the official foreign exchange market rate, which is around 1,570 naira per dollar. Because of how expensive that is in relative terms, it means that you are having to buy sedans at almost 10 million naira, in some contexts 10 million naira, because of course they have to be imported. So this is a typical example of what macroeconomists would explain as exchange rate pass-through. So one way to be able to curtail or get the naira to appreciate is if you pump more oil, and pump more oil so that you can offset the losses you get from the crude that you're staking to service the debts, the crude-led debts that we already have access to. Moving forward, still within the medium term, we have to be able to get food production numbers up, and also try and see how we can augment for some losses or some offsets by complementing with more syndicated food imports as well in that context. So
Basil, as quickly as you can.
You're seeing the
yeah, because I'd like you to quickly, we're almost out of time. This number, 24.48%, a number of Nigerians don't seem to agree with it, but it is the official stats that the NBS has released. And people say they haven't yet started to see the impact. But are there any merits to these numbers? Can we say maybe you will bring in, foreign investment? Are there any positive signs that we can see from these numbers?
Maybe the only positive, and you have to look at it again from a macro perspective, probably the only positive here is that it's going to make the CBN Monetary Policy Committee calm down with their hikes a bit. Now that the numbers are out, of course, the 199th Monetary Policy Committee meeting starts today in Abuja, in the Central Bank of Nigeria headquarters. Yeah, they will probably hold on to hiking, so they will not hike the interest rates, they will hold it to the current rate, which is 27.5%. That is some form of relief for the real sector, folks in the financial services, as well as folks who are in the industrial sector. Of course, the largest contributor to Nigeria's GDP at over 53% is the services sector. And then another significant driver to Nigeria's GDP is also the industry sector. So now the industry sector have to be able to access naira-based liquidity from the Nigerian financial services. And because inflation rate is high and the interest rate is at 27.5%, a further hike in interest rate means that, or a further hike in the monetary policy rate means that interest rates that they're going to access from financial services will be very high. But a halt means that when they're accessing naira-based liquidity, especially bridge loans or short-term loans to be able to carry out a transaction or pay for certain imported raw materials to continue to manufacture, they no longer have to pay a higher price. So that form of halt gives some relief to the industry sector. So if we're looking at positives, probably the only positive is that the real sector will have some form of relief.
Thank you so much for your insight and time, Basil Abia, co-founder of Verif Africa. We do appreciate your insight and your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here.
And that's it on Breakfast Central. But later today, we will bring you interesting programs. We'll have Jasiri coming up at the 10 o'clock hour. We also have News Central now at 12 p.m. and tonight at 10 p.m.
Thank you to all our guests who've joined us this morning and to those who have called to be a part of the show, especially to you, our viewers, for being a part of Breakfast Central. We'll be back again same time tomorrow. I'm Olive Emodi.
And thank you to the fantastic production team behind this amazing show. We love you and we appreciate the good work you do. And Benga Bora. Bye-bye.